Coming up, Indianapolis and Indianapolis International Airport landed the prestigious Routes Americas Conference. Indiana, only the third U.S. city, the first in the Midwest to host this international event. Airport Authority Executive Director Mario Rodriguez is here with news coming out of the gathering that will mean jobs and more nonstop destinations. Plus, D.C. area-based U Group says Indy's thriving tech climate and talent pool, two of the reasons it decided to expand to Indiana. CEO Lena Trudeau is here with her vision for growth, including hiring 100 by the end of the year. And instead of heading to your usual favorites when it comes to eating out, why not take a road trip to some of Indiana's hidden gems and small towns around the state? In this month's Trendiana segment, Yelp's Brittany Smith shows us some interesting options. Details on those stories and much more ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. Well, Indianapolis and Indianapolis International Airport took center stage this week in the aviation world as they hosted the Routes Americas Conference. Now, Indy, just the third U.S. city to land the event, first in the Midwest. It attracted hundreds of decision makers from airlines, airports, and tourism organizations around the globe. And there was news coming out of the event. And for more on that news and the impact, pleased to be joined as always by Airport Authority Executive Director Mario Rodriguez. Mario, welcome to the program.
Great to be here, Gary.
First of all, we'll get to that announcement of a new carrier at the airport, but the Routes Conference. This is really a big deal. Big deal that it landed literally here in Indianapolis, the first Midwest city. Didn't go to Chicago.
Absolutely.
Came to Indianapolis.
Think about it. 3 times in its history, it's been here in the United States.
Yeah.
The first time in the Midwest, and they picked Indianapolis, not Chicago.
Yeah. We'll talk about the event. Several days, about 600 plus decision makers here. What's the impact of that?
Well, it's a huge impact because, remember, these are the decision makers that decide whether a flight goes into a place or not. Mm-hmm. The power of the conference is that it's here in Indianapolis, here in Indiana. So they were thrilled with everything. Now they understand what Indiana and what Indianapolis is all about. Mm-hmm. And this was all thanks to the Governor Holcomb, and the mayor hosting this. It was a phenomenally intelligent idea to bring this conference here.
Yeah, and you can even put some short and long-term dollars, right, economic impact.
Yeah, the short-term dollars are $2 million. Mm-hmm. It's a $2 million impact immediate, and there's a $40 million impact long-term, which is that's just a conference without any additional flights, without anything.
Well, speaking of additional flights, during the conference, you made a big announcement. Contour Airlines, Tennessee-based carrier, will be establishing a base here with employees and also adding some routes.
Oh, absolutely. It's fantastic because it's an airline that's over 30 years old. Mm-hmm. It's operational, and it'll be connecting 3 places that we've never had connections to. Mm-hmm. St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and Nashville. We had them at one time, but we've lost them a long time ago. But this connects strong business markets, mm-hmm. and it eliminates drive times for people that actually have to drive to them.
Yeah, as you look at that mix of nonstop flights from the nonstop to Paris to the tech destinations and now these regional destinations, it's quite a mix, and the most nonstops, right, at the airport?
The most nonstops ever. Just think about it, Gary. 5 years ago, this airport had 33 nonstops. With this announcement, we have 53 nonstops and over 150 flights on a daily basis, and that doesn't include FedEx. Those are just passenger flights.
Yeah. Before we leave that, the nonstop flights, certainly the Paris nonstop has, by all indications, been going well.
Paris nonstop is doing phenomenally well, and the passengers going into Europe are trending in the right direction. So in other words, there's more Hoosiers going directly into Europe, because it's just natural, plus the stimulation of the flight.
additional nonstops. Been a lot of talk about it. Governor Holcomb was on the show last week and kind of hinted that he expects there to be more announcements. Kind of talked about Europe, maybe a London nonstop, Japan, Germany, Mexico.
We've been looking at different targets: Mexico City, London, Japan, and Governor Holcomb has been instrumental in driving this vision. Because we're just a reflection of what's happening in the state. So in other words, we make sure that we underpin the economy. We don't drive the economy, and the economy is being driven extremely well by the governor, and the mayor's staff. I mean, it's trending in the right direction.
Let's talk about the airport. 7 straight years, North America's best airport.
7 straight years, North America's best airport. Actually, one thing that we don't have to explain what the award is, J.D. Power's #1 airport in the United States.
And part of that, it's not just flights, it's the experience, and you're doing a major overhaul, right, of the retail offerings. Talk about how that's going at the airport.
It's going well. We have an incredibly strong combination of local and national brands. We've opened up several already. We're going to be opening up even more. We've opened up FAO Schwarz, something that everybody remembers. At least I remember it from my youth. And also, we've opened up Mac and Tumi and several other stores for the travelers.
Yeah, and that's an important part of that experience, right? As you made the decisions on the types of retailers, the types of restaurants you want to put in there. Some of a number of them local too. That local connection, right?
We've been incredibly thoughtful in choosing the right combination of concessions. And one of the visions is also to try to keep the money that generates at the airport here locally. So we're concentrating on buying local, bringing in local concessionaires, and making sure that we don't export this economic impact.
Mario Rodriguez is the executive director of the Indianapolis International Airport Authority. Mario, as always, thanks for being on the show, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, Amazon.com is looking to establish yet another big e-commerce fulfillment and distribution facility, this one in Hancock County. According to a construction permit filed with the state late last month, the online retail giant plans to locate into 660,000 square feet of space in Greenfield, create perhaps as many as 1,000 jobs. The facility, part of the Mount Comfort Logistics Center, which is being developed by Ambrose Property Group. Amazon already employs a large number of Hoosiers at several facilities, including those in Plainfield, Indianapolis, Whitestown, Jeffersonville, and a recently opened facility in Greenwood. Coming up next, a fast-growing tech company is setting up its first Midwest operation right here in Indiana, a decision that will mean significant investment in dozens of jobs. We'll get the inside scoop of what really attracted U Group here from CEO Lena Trudeau. It's time now to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegiant, pioneering safety. Well, D.C. area-based U Group is expanding to Indianapolis, to be specific, its third base of operations. U Group has been named among the nation's fastest-growing tech companies. And for more on the company and its vision for Indiana, pleased to be joined by CEO Lena Trudeau. And Lena, welcome to the program. Welcome to Indiana.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Talk about U Group, because your platform is basically it's human-centered design. Talk about what that's all about.
Absolutely. Human-centered design plus technology. And human-centered design is really, in its simplest terms, all about remembering to keep people at the center of everything we do. We can apply technology solutions to solve really complex problems and to create new opportunities that are really fantastic. But at the end of the day, the technology can do anything we want it to do. It's really about whether we're understanding the needs of the people in the equation and keeping them front of mind in everything we do.
I know you have some Indiana connections, a key executive from Columbus, not far from Indianapolis here, and also a connection, Baltimore Ravens, a client connection to the NFL Combine with training and some of the work you're doing in training.
Yeah, well, we do some really interesting work with virtual reality and augmented reality technologies, and that's a really emerging space that requires sort of the combination of And the training applications are just one example of how that's really got a bright future. We're working with a couple of NFL teams right now, and humans learn through experience. And so there's a really big difference between the ability to put on a headset and see a play evolve in front of you and be able to look at that from any vantage point on the field versus looking at a play that's designed on a piece of paper in front of you.
Right. Do you focus on any certain industry? You mentioned, the NFL. I know you have a number of different kinds of companies. Any particular sector of the economy you're focused on?
The majority of our work is with government clients, federal government clients to be exact, and we do a fair amount of work with folks like the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, the State Department, Department of Justice. That's probably the majority of our work.
Based in the D.C. area, but establishing this your third base of operations?
Correct,
in Indianapolis. Talk about why you selected Indiana, because obviously you would have multiple choices for where you could go for this. Why Indiana?
Well, we've got a couple of customers and partners here, and we've been working with Purdue, which is an amazing institution, the Purdue Research Foundation, and we've been serving for a couple of years now the good folks over at J.D. Byrider, wonderful people led by Craig Peters, an amazing CEO. And so we got exposed to what's going on here in Indiana and Indianapolis through their eyes, and we were just really delighted. It's been an incredibly warm welcome. There's a lot of innovation going on here. The workforce, the skilled workforce here is fabulous. In addition to the technology skills, there's a great design school based right here in Indianapolis. So we think it has all the right ingredients. And then beyond that, I mean, we really take diversity very seriously on our team, and we want to be able to reflect on our team all of the people that we serve. So, we had a DC presence and of course a Portland presence. We were bi-coastal. We really were missing something in the middle of the country.
As we wrap up in terms of jobs, I think the initial commitment over several years is about 100 jobs. Is that the idea?
That's right. That's our goal. And we're starting with 12 immediate hires. I'm actually doing some interviewing while I'm out here. And I'll just put a little plug in. I mean, these are really great high-skilled jobs, and the technology skills we're looking for in our first hires will command some pretty good salary, and we have a great benefits package and compensation package overall. So if you're interested, u.group/careers, check it out.
Good. Make the great pitch there. Lena Trudeau is CEO of U Group company, be establishing an operation here in central Indiana, Indianapolis. Lena, thank you for being on the program, and welcome to Indiana.
Thanks so much for your help.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, still ahead, get ready to tempt your taste buds as we tour Indiana's small town restaurant scene. We'll sample everything from slow-cooked barbecue in Munster to Indonesian eats in Greensburg. Brittany Smith has all the details in this month's Trendiana segment. Plus, more on the culinary scene in central Indiana.
Building a pipeline of local chefs. I'm Mary Rachel Redman at the Fisher's Test Kitchen. Wow, delicious. And I'm going to tell you how this experiment is helping to grow the culinary scene in Indianapolis, coming up.
Here's what's making news now around Indiana. In Fort Wayne, developers of the $440 million Electric Works mixed-use innovation district at the former GE campus are again asking for more time to secure financing. RTM Ventures made a formal request to extend its economic development agreement with various city and county agencies. And Mayor Tom Henry says he supports the extension. Also, the state has confirmed that Electric Works is, quote, close to finalizing terms with an anchor tenant. And in a letter, the state reconfirmed its commitment to that project. Well, what started as a hobby in a tiny workshop behind Trampus Young's Logansport home, it's some baseball players around the country. Young learned how to make bats about 8 years ago, and just 3 years later, he started Titan Bat Company. Last year, Titan produced and sold 3,000 bats. He expects that number to double this year. This spring, Titan Bat will move into a 5,000 square foot facility to keep up with growing demand. Michigan-based plumbing supply company Genova Products is closing 2 of its facilities in Indiana. That decision to affect about 116 workers in Fort Wayne, another 89 at a location in Rensselaer. The company says it has not been able to secure further funding to continue operating, and efforts to find a partner were not successful. Well, the Fisher's Test Kitchen is officially open for business. And as our Mary Rachel Redmond reports, the new Restaurant Accelerator has its sights set on helping to grow Indy's budding culinary scene, one chef at a time.
The culinary scene in central Indiana is booming. And to help continue that momentum, the city of Fishers is one of a handful of cities in the country to open a culinary accelerator in hopes of growing a pipeline of local chefs.
We chose 3 young chefs who wanted to test a concept, create their own restaurant. We have 3 completely independent restaurants working within the Fisher's Test Kitchen. So this gives them a chance to build a following, kind of refine what they're doing. We have tried to kind of de-risk the process of opening a restaurant in hopes that we can help create more restaurants and build the culinary community.
And that's exactly what Test Kitchen chef Carlos Salazar says he plans to do.
I want multiple restaurants, whether it's in the north side, obviously I want in the north side, back in Fountain Square, just all over Indy. You know, I'm not looking to go anywhere else. I want to stay in Indy. I want to grow with Indy, with the food scene, and I want to make it better.
One of our biggest contributions is going to be that we're capturing the imagination, not only of our locals, the chefs, the businesses, and the communities, but we're also capturing the attention of those that are visiting Indianapolis maybe for the first time, or contemplating relocation of a business, or maybe adding a new flight from Indianapolis to another location. When they see what's happening here in the innovation economy, plus what's happening in culinary, I think it makes the whole region that much more viable to everyone.
Even the airport sees the positive impact a strong local culinary scene is having on the region.
We've seen a lot of excitement from our guests from around the world to experience the culinary scene. You may know that we've been rated nationally as it relates to the food scene. A lot of national magazines have focused in on the importance of the food scene. And if you take that even further from an economic impact, we're such an agricultural-based state. And so for the ag community to then tie into the culinary scene, it brings culture, it brings business, and it brings it all together.
And Gary, talking about bringing business to the city,
Right.
the Big Routes Conference that's been here this past week. One of the deciding factors, they were really impressed with Indy's culinary scene.
Right, yeah.
So it's attracting businesses and people to the city.
And more people want locally owned restaurants, and that means that demand for chefs increasing. Fisher's, entrepreneurial, innovative city, they're kind of a launching pad now maybe for some of these chefs.
Exactly, and the Test Kitchen is the perfect place to start
Yep.
because you don't take on all that risk that
Yep.
you would if you were opening up your own restaurant.
Interesting story. Thanks, Mary Rachel, as always. Well, the Ball State University Board of Trustees has unanimously extended the contract of President Jeff Mearns through 2027 and also elected new officers. Mearns became Ball State's 17th president in 2017. Renee Conley will serve as chair of the board, succeeding Rick Hall, who will continue to serve as a member of the board. Well, up next, you don't have to hit the big city to experience great flavor. Why not try some of Indiana's small-town culinary gems? You may be surprised at what Yelp's Brittany Smith found in all corners of the state. There she is in the Inside Indiana Business Social Media Lounge. Preparing for this month's Trindiana segment, it is presented by the seasoned commercial bankers at Star Bank, getting to know you and your business. Well, you don't have to go to a big city to find big flavors. You know, who knows, maybe one of these small-town Indiana gems, just the spot for a Valentine's adventure. Yelp's Midwest Regional Director Brittany Smith is here to show us a few options from authentic Italian cheese and cuisine in Warren, Indiana, Indonesian eats in Greensburg, and a craft pizza and wine bar in Greencastle. Brittany, you've been all over the state for this one, right?
Yes.
Welcome, as always. So,
thank you.
We were talking off camera. You know, there's always been these little here and there cool places in small towns around the state. It seems like there are more and more of those around the state.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to see how these pioneers who are starting out these new restaurants like Bridges and Greencastle, the impact that it has once one business does it and the trickling effect to all the other locations around the square. It's a really fun process.
Well, you've got some nice examples from around the state. We begin in Northwest Indiana, in Munster, Indiana, and it's Dahmer's Barbecue.
Yes, this business has made our top 50 places to eat in Indiana list for Yelp data, and they are known for having over 500 reviews, 4.5 stars. So you got to get there early because they do run out of the barbecue dishes that they're known for. Some of their top trended items are the Bang Bang Shrimp, the Brisket Barbecue Sandwich. It's super delicious. They're known for slow and slow is their technique.
Very good. Opened their doors in 2013, so about 7 years old.
Yes, exactly.
Well, let's go east of Indianapolis to Greensburg and Mayasari Indonesian Grill.
Yeah, Greensburg, you know it for the courthouse with the tree growing right out of it. Mayasari is located right across the street, so you can actually eat your meal and look up at the courthouse and see it. They have a 5-star rating, and Indonesian cuisine is hard to come by in the Midwest, so they're one of the few spots throughout the, well, the only in the state and in the Midwest. But if you're new to Indonesian cuisine, recommend trying the beef rendang curry, the chicken satay, and they've also got a sampler where you can kind of try some new things and hopefully learn something new there.
And interesting to me, anyway, that you see these international cuisine, not just in Indianapolis, but in smaller towns, like at Greensburg.
Yeah, it's a beautiful example of an immigrant that came over and how that's had an impact on the neighboring businesses and factories, too.
Yeah, very good. Okay, let's go to Warren, Indiana, which is between here and Fort Wayne, right?
Yes,
it's on the
exactly.
Way to, on the way to Fort Wayne. Golfo di Napoli Dairy.
Yes, and hence the name. It was 2 family members that came over from Naples, Italy, and started this business just last year. It's 35,000 square feet of this chic creamery is the best way to describe it. It's beautiful. They've got a cheese counter. You can order cocktails, artisan sandwiches, a lot of Italian products, made-in-house gelato. So you can go there and make a whole afternoon of it. They're making their own burrata, mozzarella. It's really beautiful.
In Warren, Indiana.
Yes, and using all Indiana farmers' milk, too.
It's a great story. And our final stop, I think, is Bridges Craft Pizza and Wine Bar in Greencastle. I've been there. It's great.
Exactly. I know that's one of your favorites. We've got Bridges, and then we've got Artisan. Bridges Craft Pizza in Greencastle. They are known for their artisan pizzas made in-house. They've got 3 stories, including a rooftop where you can overlook the square. It's a beautiful setting.
And you mentioned it up north. We go to Elkhart and Artisan.
Yes, Artisan. This is a great one for Valentine's Day reservations, a little fancier. They've got a beautiful wine by the bottle and glass menu, and they're known for their scallops and their lamb chops.
And very quickly, though, Bridges is a good example in Greencastle, but these others, too. It's really helping the downtowns, the economic development, the vibrancy of these towns.
Yes, you can think of so many different cities throughout the state. Richmond, Indiana is another great example. Beautiful new businesses making an impact.
Brittany Smith, as always, great content, great information from around the state of Indiana, small town gyms. Thanks for being here. We'll talk
Thanks
to you
so
soon.
much, Gary.
Okay. Well, coming up, many times workers who failed drug tests wind up losing their job or a job offer. But a new statewide effort is taking a different approach, and we'll explain how it works and why it's getting national attention. Plus, Ivy Tech putting an $8 million Lilly Endowment grant to use with a new strategic approach to making sure that students learn in the classroom. What they learn in the classroom will translate into careers. Leadership from Ivy Tech here with more in our Eye on Education segment. Stay with us. Well, many Hoosier businesses acknowledge that the opioid crisis and other substance use disorders are impacting their employees, and those companies are also struggling with how to help workers afflicted by addiction. The Indiana Chamber is launching a unique plan to remedy that, and Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta is here with that story. Kylie.
Thank you, Gary. The Chamber is unrolling a program across the state designed to help employees or even people applying for a job who don't pass a drug or alcohol test. The award-winning program is all about second chances. They can keep their job or still get hired while the company supports them through treatment. Indiana Workforce Recovery is leading the charge. Director Mike Thibodeau joins me now to tell us about the details, along with Steve McCaffrey, President and Chief Executive Officer of Mental Health America of Indiana. Thank you both for being here today.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So it's part of the Indiana Workforce Recovery. This program is under that umbrella, which is part of the Chamber, but this is open to all Indiana companies, not just Chamber companies. So explain how the program works. It's basically started when the person fails a drug or alcohol screen or even self-reports. So then what happens?
Sure. So through a partnership with Centerstone Behavioral Health, we're working to deliver a model whereby Hoosier employers are able to retain talent that fails a drug screen or onboard talent from an applicant side of the perspective that can't quite get in the door because of a substance misuse issue. So companies all across the state have people that are qualified for work, that they're excited to onboard, but who they can't bring in the door because of what happens during the drug screening process. This gives them an ability to take an active role in the treatment process and really help people continue to move along that spectrum and retain and gain gainful employment, which is a big difference for their recovery.
Right, exactly, a key part of the recovery. Steve, some people say businesses should be more involved in overcoming the opioid crisis, all substance abuse issues in Indiana. Why is it so important for businesses to join the game, to be part of this?
You know, we really do think that businesses should be involved, and Mike's done a great job in coordinating that effort. You know, we know that as a society, we have been slow to respond to behavioral health issues, specifically the opioid epidemic. And we've probably been slower in the employment sector than many of the others. And at the same time, we know that there's a real economic cost to businesses. When they have employees that have issues with behavioral health issues or the opioid epidemic, we know that productivity goes down, absenteeism goes up, costs go up. We know that they are having difficulty hiring employees that can pass a drug screen. So ironically, businesses are perfectly suited because the issues here are actually measurable in economic cost.
And we talked about how this is an award-winning program, and that's because it's been going on for a couple years at Belden, a manufacturer in Richmond. Explain, Mike, how did Belden really lay the framework, the groundwork for this program that's now statewide?
Sure. So they were looking at their workforce and they were considering, you know, we're having some issues with drug testing and the results that are coming from that. We want to be able to retain these people. What do we do? So they brought some partners to the table, and in working with Centerstone and coordinating with some community organizations, they developed a process by which people get individualized treatment plans. They have a system of care team that exists not only from the medical side of it, but also within the workplace, where a group of individuals who care about these individuals meet on a regular basis and just kind of discuss where they're at. They help with social supports like transportation, housing, different things that are kind of tangential, but often can get in the way of somebody getting help. And they've also found a way temporarily to move people off of safety-sensitive work into a non-safety sensitive capacity so those individuals can retain employment with the organization while participating in treatment and beginning their journey of recovery, which can make all the difference in the world in their outcomes.
Right, 34 success stories at Belden, so now expanding that program statewide. Only a few seconds left, Steve, but the legalities, there's legal issues involved, but those have all been ironed out, right?
They have, and we were able to pass legislation in the Indiana General Assembly in 2018 to bring all of these parties together. The Division of Mental Health and Addiction, working with Mike and the Wellness Council, came up with some good business practices